Yo, RX back with another breakdown of UFC Mexico Moreno versus Erceg. We back with another breakdown of a card that is hopefully better than London. That's probably the nicest thing I can say about this card because it's not that great. Compared to London on paper, I think it's worse on paper. I said don't. I think it'll probably be better than the London card was. If we get one KO, it's better than a London card. But overall, this card ain't amazing. Like, usually the Mexico cards are decent. This one is not amazing. Main events, not something I'm super ecstatic about. Co-main is cool. Few fights on the card are alright, but overall it's just not that great. Again, I think the London card last week on paper was better outside the main event, but it's just not a really stellar card. It's very subpar, and again, the nicest thing I could probably say is it should be better than the London card last week, but that's a beyond low bar to try and surpass because that London card was fucking dreadful. So if we get one knockout, it's better. So, you know, like, what the fuck else do you want me to say? I don't know, I'm not overly ecstatic for this card. It's a little later in the day, so I do like that. It's not at 1 p.m, 4 p.m. is pretty nice. And we are still out of the Apex for the last week until we go back next week. So let's enjoy it. We're still outside of America, let alone the Apex in Vegas. So let's see what happens down in Mexico City, where we've not been since last year. When what was the last Mexico City card? Was that Moreno Rival, which was a pretty okay card if I remember. So let's see what happens here. So, going back to Mexico City, all the way from London, let's see what happens. Be better than London. That's the nicest thing I could say. Outside of that, don't really got much more I can add. It's not a great looking fight night. Hopefully it's better in execution than it was on paper. Than it is on paper, and let's see what happens. So, let's break it down before we can actually watch it on Saturday. So, let's do just that. Break it down. Before I do, please like, comment, subscribe. As always, 100 subs goal by the end of 2025. And unless I'm forgetting to say something in this intro, which I don't believe I am, I'd be shocked if I was. You ready to break down some fights in Mexico City or Mexico City, however you want to say it? I know I am. Viva la raza, baby. This is not. Why does Noche UFC not take place in Mexico again? I don't know, but that's talk about all the way in September, I believe. So let's go to Mexico City in March. Is this the last card of March? I believe it is. Let's see how March ends for fights in Mexico City. 13 fights, another 13 fight card. I think it was like 3 or 4 in a row. Let's break it down. You ready? I know I am. Viva la raza, or Viva Mexico. I don't know what you're meant to say. Let's go. We begin in the lightweight division, as we did last week, I believe. This fight's a little worse than on paper and probably in execution than the card opener last week, Garam and Cowie. But this one not awful, not the worst fight on the card, but it's not far from being the worst fight on the card. Starting with 2 Americans in Mexico. That makes fucking sense. I guess it does, even though... No, it doesn't. This fight should not be on a Mexico card. I know this fight was meant to happen in the Apex a few weeks ago, but why the fuck move it here, move to next week? Whatever, I'll talk more about that in a second. But, without further ado, let's get into our first fight of the night in the lightweight division. First of 13, as we begin with number 1, Austin Thud Hubbard versus MarQuel Mederos. Again, not a stellar fight, as I said. I think last week's card opener with Guram and Cowie was better on paper and probably overall. But you never know, this could be a decent fight. I highly doubt it, but it could be. Again, why is a Mexico card starting off with 2 Americans, who I don't even think have Mexican descent or anything? Maybe I'm wrong. But I doubt Austin Hubbard or MarQuel Mederos have anything relating to fucking Mexico. So why the fuck are they on a Mexico card, let alone opening it up? Again, I know a lot of things happened for this fight to get here. So the long story short, the fight was originally going to be, I believe, Daniel Hubbard against, well, okay, let me get this straight. Daniel Hubbard was meant to fight Elvis Brenner. Then it was Austin Hubbard who stepped in to fight Hubbard, and then Mederos stepped in to fight Hubbard. So that's how we got here. We started with Daniel Hubbard versus Elvis Brenner, and we end with Austin Hubbard versus MarQuel Mederos. Fuck. Well, let's see what happens here, you know. Shitty fight to begin the night, but whatever. Could be worse, but not much better. It could be worse, but not much worse, and it could be much better. That's what I was trying to say. God, I'm rambling a lot. Let's talk about these fighters. We'll begin with our first fighter of the night, Austin Thud Hubbard. Hubbard in the UFC is 4-6 in his 2 UFC stints. His first UFC stint we talked about many times, but now he was not very good. He got cut after going 3-4. Went to the regional scene, got 2 wins, appeared on The Ultimate Fighter, got to the finale, lost to Kurt Holobaugh, and now has been 1-1 since. Really should be 0-2, and yeah, he's still the same shitty fighter he was before. Since that tough finale, he should have lost to Michael Figlak in a very close fight, and he did lose to Alexander Hernandez, where he looked awful, and he was meant to be one of the best underdogs on the card, and he got fucking beat. He's not good. He's legit not good. I've been saying this from the beginning. Austin Hubbard's a terrible fighter. 33 years old now, 4-6 in the UFC. He's not getting better. He might be getting worse. His most notable UFC moment is making that Max Roshkov kid quit when he stepped in on short notice during a goddamn pandemic. Outside of that, what the fuck has Hubbard done? Beat nobody good? Fucking lose to every subpar fighter he's ever goddamn fought. Like, he's not good. I don't even know what he's good at. His striking is not great. His grappling is not great. He's durable. He's never been KO'd. Been submitted twice, but he's never been KO'd. But who would have KO'd him from who he's fought? Alexander Hernandez? Fucking... That's it. Maybe Vinc Pichel. So he's just not good. Austin Hubbard is a terrible fighter who should have not been brought back. Like, cool, you made it a tough finale on one of the worst tough seasons of all time, and you lost. So why do you get a fucking participation contract? He's not good, he's never been good, and he's still the same shit fighter he's always been. I don't know what you want me to say about Austin Hubbard. To talk about his opponent, the prospect of the two, MarQuel and Mederos. MarQuel in the UFC is 1-0, coming out to Contender Series, where he looked pretty decent a few years ago. And ever since, he's only had one UFC fight, all the way back in February of 2024, when he beat Landon Quinones. He looked okay in his debut, and now he hasn't fought in over a year, and now he's back against Hubbard. Again, he looked perfectly okay against Landon Quinones. It was not some great performance. He beat him, but it wasn't anything special. Landon Quinones is not very good. I do think he's probably better than Austin Hubbard, but that's a low damn bar. Another guy from Tough who never should have got a UFC contract, Landon Quinones, perfect example. Being off for a year, over a year, is not great, but he is very young, so I guess he could risk taking that break at 28 years old, 9-1. He did have 2 fights lined up that both got cancelled. Gonna fight Nazim Sadikov in July. MarQuel withdrew, and then he was meant to fight Evan Elder. Who knows what the fuck happened there? So, and that was meant to happen last week in London, right? Oh no, this is meant to happen on the Vittori card. My bad. So now he made it to Austin Hubbard in Mexico. Not really much to say. We've only seen MarQuel fight twice. Again, on Contender Series, he looked decent. He earned a contract. He looked better on Contender Series than he did in his UFC debut. And then in his UFC debut over a year ago, he beat a terrible fighter in Landon Quinones. So, I can't really add much else. Like, he's a decent striker. He trains with Aljo and the boys, I believe, down at Factory. Is that Factory X? No. Oh, is he not a... Oh no, he's a Merc Montoya student. Okay, I thought he was a fucking, Aljamain Marab Ray Longo guy, but no, he's a Mark Montoya. Okay. So you know he's gonna have good leg kicks. Again, he's a decent striker, but he's nothing special. I don't think he's some great prospect at lightweight, especially compared to other ones, but you never know. If you can beat Austin Hubbard, that proves fucking nothing, so we'll see what MarQuel can do in his return after a year plus away. We'll see how the kid looks in his second UFC outing. The betting odds say he's going to look pretty good at a minus 190 favorite to plus 160. I would agree. You could have him minus, I would say 195. I want to say 200, but I don't know. I don't feel it. He should win. Austin Hubbard's a terrible fighter. If you can do any basic MMA, you can beat Austin Hubbard, and I think MarQuel can do just that. So, I'm not going to really be any shocking here, because why the fuck would I ever pick Austin Hubbard? Give me MarQuel Mederos by decision. I doubt he finishes him. He's not really a submission guy. He has 0 submissions on his record. So, more likely he just does what he did against Landon Quinones, be the better fighter for 15 minutes, and route to a pretty easy decision. What's the height and all that? So same height, 2 inches in reach for Hubbard. Yeah, MarQuel should win. Austin Hubbard's a terrible fighter, and, damn, it's kind of shame we didn't get to see him fight Daniel Zellhuber, because watching Zellhuber beat his ass would have been enjoyable. But, what can you do? MarQuel, it's your turn to do that, so let's see it. Give me MarQuel Mederos by decision, and what should be a pretty easy prediction and fight to begin the night. You should not be having any problems with Austin Hubbard. So, MarQuel Mederos by decision to start the night in a pretty simple fight. After that, we go to our second fight of the night. Another fight with 0 Mexicans in it. UFC, why? Do you not have enough Mexican fighters? Like, I thought you had plenty, but I guess you don't have any to start your goddamn card in Mexico City. As for our second fight of the night, we drop 10 pounds down to the featherweight division. As we have a decent fight, nothing amazing, nothing you're going to really remember, but I don't hate this fight. As in our second fight of the night in the featherweight division, a lot better than our opening fight, as we have Jamall Pretty Boy Emmers versus Gabriel Fly Miranda. Again, nothing amazing, but still better than the first fight of the night. I think these two are levels above Austin Hubbard. Mederos, debatable, we'll see. But I don't think this is a bad fight. I think these are two pretty underrated fighters. Well, kind of underrated. Like, on the low tier of underrated. They're not very great, but I do think they deserve a little more respect than they get, so, if that makes sense. So, but what does make sense is, let's begin this breakdown. Another fight with no Mexicans, an American and a Brazilian. You're getting there. You're fucking getting there, UFC. As we will begin this breakdown with Jamall Emmers. Jamall in the UFC is 3-4. He's only had that many. I thought he's had more fights than that. 3-4 in UFC. 0-1 off the Contender Series, so he earned a contract the hard way. Went 4-0 after losing on Contender Series to Giuliani Rosa. Damn, that's a tough outing. His wins in UFC have been Vinc Camacho, Kushin Ashkabov, and Dennis Pazukia. His losses have been Giga Chikadze, Pat Sabatini, Jack Jenkins, and Nate Landwehr. Jamall was on a pretty nice run around 2023, but that quickly got stopped by Nate Landwehr. Jamall's not a bad fighter, but he is 35 years old, which is not great, especially at a lighter weight class. His wins have not really been anything amazing. Vinc Camacho, or Cachero, I don't know how you say that fucking name, but he sucked anyway. Kushin Ashkabov, a guy who did some really fucked up shit and was a complete padded record fraud and got cut not long after that fight, because he kind of killed someone, I think, or something along those fucking lines. And then Dennis Bazookia, who we know is not good, and he missed weight for that fight. Good job, Jamall. And then in the losses, Giga Chikadze is a really tough UFC debut. At least at that time. Now, not so much, but at that time, that's not an easy debut. But even though I feel like a lot of people think he won that fight, but it was close. Pat Sabatini, at that time, not a bad L. Jack Jenkins, a lot of people think he won that fight, and I guess at that time, not a bad L. And then Nate Landwehr, it's okay. I like Nate Landwehr, but he's not very good. And now Jamall here fighting Miranda. Jamall's a decent fighter, pretty well-rounded, decent striking, decent ground game, cardio's alright. He's fine. He's nothing special, but he's like a pretty decent, well-rounded guy. He's fine. He's not gonna be a dude who joins the top 15, but he's not a dude who's gonna get cut because he lost to bad fighters. He can beat bad fighters and even pretty decent ones, but he's never gonna beat any of the guys. Like, even though he did put up good fights against Giga and Jack Jenkins, still he's really not to those guys' level. Even though those at that time Jenkins is pretty dog shit and Giga Chikadze has fallen off a goddamn cliff. That's besides the point. Jamall's a fine fighter. Decent power in his hands sometimes, decent striker, decent ground game, like I said. He's a perfectly decent guy. He's a guy you want your prospects to either fight or not to fight. That's for you to decide if you want to test him or not. At 35 years old, who knows how much time he has left. Had a pretty deep career, 20-8, a few fights in the UFC. So we'll see how much more Jamall has. This is his first fight of 2025. Hasn't fought in a year, almost to the day of when this fight happens. So we'll see how he looks by another year older. See how he looks in his return. We talk about his opponent, Gabriel Miranda, not fighting in Paris for once, so he's probably ecstatic. 1-2 in the UFC. In the UFC debut, he stepped in against Benoit Saint Denis on short notice in Paris, got smacked. Then he submitted Shane Young in 59 seconds, all the way in Australia, and I picked him as the underdog there. Thank you for that. And then he flew to Paris again on short notice to go fight Morgan Cháirez, which he got smacked. Yeah, this guy really does not like fucking Paris. And now he's going all the way to goddamn Mexico. Can this man fight in America or Brazil? He's went to Paris, Australia, Paris. This poor fucking guy. I don't think Miranda's a bad fighter, but he's kind of got a bad outing. Benoit Saint Denis at the peak of his hype on short notice. That's not fun. Morgan Cháirez on short notice. That's not fun. The one guy he fought on a full camp and not on short notice, who's more towards his level, he easily starched Shane Young in 59 goddamn seconds. So, like, he's not a terrible fighter. No, he's not a world beater. No, he's not that great of a fighter. But he's not awful. He is 35 years old, though, so also very old. The battle of the 35-year-old featherweights. Weird. But I don't think, like, if he got to UFC a few years earlier, I think he could have done alright. I still don't think he's top 15 or that great, but I don't think he's a pushover. But at this point of his career, 35 years old, I don't think he's going to do much. And I don't think he has, I can't even remember his striking too much. I feel like he did okay against Morgan, but he did get KO'd. Benoit just beat the shit out of him, and again, he did submit Shane Young pretty easily. So, he's fine. He's probably going to lose this fight, but if he can get you down, you might be in trouble. But outside that, 35 years old, not the most well-rounded. Again, a few years ago, Miranda could have been alright, but in 2025, at 35 years old, I don't think he's going to do much. I don't think he can do much at this point, so we'll see. The bang odds in this battle of 35-year-olds coming off a loss have Jamall Emmers -220 to +180. Yeah, you could make a case. I don't think that's a bad betting line. You could I wouldn't go any higher than that. I don't know if I would even go that high to begin with. Maybe a 200, 210, even if you want to drop him out to 190, but I'd probably leave him at 210, 200. He should win, unless Miranda can get him down and submit him, which is unlikely. Jamall should win this fight. Could Miranda lock up the submission, jumping on his back or something? Yeah, but it's unlikely. More than likely, it's going to probably be a lot like that Cushion fight for Jamall, where he's stuffing takedowns and beating Gabriel on the feet. Gabriel's not a striker. 1 KO, and I guarantee you it's a fucking ground and pound or some bullshit like that. So, and then again, he's been KO'd twice on the feet now, so, you know, I doubt he really wants to strike in the UFC, but you never know. More than likely, like I said, Jamall just stuffs takedowns for 15 minutes and pieces him up on the feet, so that's what I'm going to predict. Give me Jamall Emmers by decision. I doubt there's a finish in this fight. If there were to be, it'd probably be a Gabriel Miranda submission. Maybe Jamall get a knockout. Again, he has shown that power before, but it's unlikely. So, again, unless Miranda gets him down and submits him, I don't really see that happening. More than likely, we get a Jamall Emmers decision. So, give me Jamall by decision. I think he's just goddamn. I think he's a more well-rounded fighter, and I think he should be able to win this fight without being too worried. Unless you get taken down, I doubt you're too worried. So, give me Jamall Emmers by decision in the battle of 35-year-olds needing a win. After that, we go to our third fight of the night, getting better with every fight so far, and this one's definitely the best one so far, even if it's pretty predictable and not that great. At least we got a goddamn Mexican! Took 3 fights, as in our third fight of the night, heading back up 10 pounds to lightweight. I guess we're just skipping between featherweight and lightweight. As in our third fight of the night, we head back to lightweight for a ginormous step up in fights from Emmers and fucking Hubbard to this, as we have gifted Hubbard García versus Vinc from Hell Pichel. I thought it was an upgrade from the first 2 fights, and they were good, because this fight's still not amazing. Might be okay, though. These two do tend to not have the most boring of fights, but they're, again, not 5 of the night havers. We got a 42-year-old man and Rafa García. What could go wrong, besides being pretty predictable? So, not much to say about this fight. I'm not going to waste your time much here, so let's just talk about what we got to talk about. And the first thing we got to talk about is our first fighter, our first Mexican of the night, Rafa García. Rafa in the UFC is 4-4, which is insane. I did not think he'd be 4-4 in the UFC, especially after his debut. You wouldn't have thought that. But those 4 wins in the UFC have been Natan Levy, Jesse Ronson, Machete, and Clay Guida. His 4 losses have been Nazra Hakparas, Chris Gritzmacher, Drakkar Klose, and Grant Dawson. Wasn't he the underdog against Ronson? Yeah. We all remember Rafa Garcia's debut during the pandemic. Fought Nazrat on short notice, looked amazing, got all the hype in the world for his next fight, and got beat by a tomato cannon Chris Gritzmacher. Good job. Ever since then, he's been a pretty up and down fighter. He's been able to beat some pretty bad guys, or a very old Clay Guida, and he's not been able to beat the higher echelon of the guys, or Grant Dawson, who's not higher echelon, he's just dog shit. He's like the most average lightweight in the world. He's never going to lose, well, I was going to say he's never going to lose to Can, but he lost to Chris Gritzmacher, so what did that tell you? If he shows up, unlike that Gritzmacher fight, he's never going to lose to a fucking Can. But he's still not the most, he's not some groundbreaking fighter. He's pretty average. He's a okay striker. Not a lot of ground game, especially in his last fight. Cardio's okay. He's pretty tough. I remember that Machete fight. He got what do you call it? A fucking vein in his head cut open by Machete and fucking bled everywhere. In one of the most bloody fights of all time, which was awesome. I'm not really much more I can say about a guy like Rafa García, who's just average. Like, he's never going to be top 15. He's never going to beat anyone close to the top 15. His best win is Clay Guida and Machete. Two guys who... Clay Guida, who's 50, and Machete, who's not very good. So, in all his losses, outside Gritzmacher, Nazrat, that's aging pretty well. Dakar Close, that was never a bad L. Grant Dawson, he got cuddled. What do you want him to fucking do? So, not much to say about Rafa. He has no memorable moments. He's only fucking... In 8 fights he's done, outside of Machete almost killing him, he's never really done anything that interesting. And this is his first fight outside of America, let alone in Mexico, during his UFC run, which is interesting. So... And yes, he was meant to fight Joaquin Silva on this card, but he pulled out a while ago and Vinc Pichel stepped in, so... Yeah. Not a lot to say about Rafa. He's the most average fighter you can imagine. He's not great. He's not terrible. He's in a top 50 at lightweight. He's like 39. So he's perfectly average. Talk about his opponent, Vinc Pichel, 42 years old, and how do we get back-to-back weeks for 42-year-old fighting? That somehow seems very impossible. Pichel in the UFC is 7-4, not quite the UFC run of Jan Blachowicz though. His coming off the Ultimate Fighter, where he did make it to the finale. His wins in the UFC since have been Garrett Whiteley, who, Anthony Njokuani, Damian Brown, who, Joaquin Silva, that's funny, Roosevelt Roberts, Jim Miller, and Austin Hubbard. His losses have been Ali Quinta on The Ultimate Fighter, Rustin Khabilov, Gregor Gillespie, Mark Madsen, and Ismail Bonfim. Pichel is really goddamn old. He's old and inactive. You know, he is fighting more consistently lately. He fought in May last year, now coming back in March. I know that's still almost a year, but for him, that's pretty active. Pichel ain't some great fighter. Like, in his youth, he was okay. Like, he was okay. Didn't really beat his best one is Joaquin Silva and Jim Miller, who are okay. Every time he fought a wrestler, he lost. Mark Madsen, Greg Gillespie, Rustan Khabilov. Again, he did go pretty deep on tough, losing to Ali Quinta, so they could lose to worse guys. But lately in the UFC run, he's had 2 fights since 2022. And they were against Mark Madsen, where he didn't look great, and Ismail Bonfim, where he looked pretty bad. So, yeah, he needs to retire. Again, he's 42 years old. Like, why are you still fighting? And at least Jan has a good reason. He's still a highly ranked guy. What are you still fighting for? So, I don't know. We'll see what Pichel can do, though. Maybe he can spring an upset in his older age, but I fucking doubt it. So, you never know, though. We'll see what Vinc can do. He's 42 years old and probably should retire. Hasn't won a fight since 2021 when he beat... who? Oh, Austin Hubbard. Funny. So, we'll see what Grandpa can do. More likely, lose. The Banners fight have Rafa García as the biggest favorite on the card at minus 480 to plus 360. I agree. You can have Rafa minus 500 in my opinion. He should win this fight. He's my lock of the night for the card, which I think the first time this year the biggest favorite on the card has been my lock of the night, but just makes sense here. I don't see how Rafa loses this fight. I think he's better. He's 12 years younger. He's more active than Vinc Pichel. He's, again, 12 years goddamn younger, and he's 30, so that says a lot. He should win this fight pretty easily. I think he's as good on the feet. I don't think this fight's going to go to the ground, because neither of these guys are good grapplers. Rafa should win this fight pretty easily, so I just really don't see him having a big fucking challenge here. Joaquin Silva, if he didn't pull out and he was still in this fight, that'd be interesting. I think the odds would be a lot closer. Still, I would favor Rafa probably, but it'd be a lot more of a debate. Vinc Pichel in 2025? 7 years ago, you could make an interesting debate for this fight. But in 2025, give me Rafa García by decision. I doubt he finishes him, because Rafa's never got a finish in the UFC, and he's not a finisher. He does not have power like that. So, more than likely, we get a Rafa García decision, and yeah, he's my lock of the night. How do you not, like, I don't even think Rafa's that good. He's average, and that's being pretty nice. I don't think he's that great, but he should beat a 62-year-old Vinc Pichel. So, give me Rafa Garcia by decision, my lock of the night. I'm not too worried. You better beat a 42-year-old Vinc Pichel in your fucking hometown. So, in your backyard, motherfucker. You should beat Vinc Pichel. Do it. After that, we go to our fourth fight of the night, our only female fight of the night, which a little shocking, but Gautier was booked later in about a month or two. Irene Aldana's still recovering from injury, so, and Yasmin Hagui was meant to be in this fight, but this fight also had a bunch of weird-ass changes, which I'll talk about, as we go to our fourth fight of the night in the top 15 of women's strawweight, with our only women's fight of the night that had a lot of weird changes to get here, as we have Julia Psycho Polastri versus Lupita Godinez. So how did we get to this fight? No, the UFC did not give Polastri a top 15 fight just for fun. We had a lot of cancellations. So the original fight was meant to be Yasmin Hagui versus Dione Barbosa. Barbosa pulled out. Then Polastri stepped in. Then Hagui pulled out, and Lupita Godinez stepped in. So we started with Yasmin and Barbosa, which is a weird fight, and now we're Polastri Godinez. So somehow Julia Polastri fell ass backwards into a top 15 fight. Cool. I don't know how. Cool. I'm a fan of her. She's my profile pick on Twitter, if that gives away who I'm picking. But I'll be honest with this prediction, so let's talk about it. I don't know why they have the ranked fighter as the blue corner on Tapology. They're not going to be the blue corner, but whatever. I'll go with Tapology, and we'll begin with Julia Polastri for this breakdown. Julia in the UFC is 1-1, coming off Contender Series, where she also went 1-1. In her first Contender Series fight, she fought Jasmine Jasvicius. Bad luck there, eh? After a few years away, she went 3-0 since that fight. Got back on Contender Series, looked great, got a contract, and then in 2024 she had her first two UFC fights, a close fight with Josephine Knudsen, which is not aging great since Knudsen has been cut. And even though that fight was close, I do think Polastri could have won that fight if the judges weren't dicks. And then in her last fight, she dominated Corey McKenna. I don't know how that was a split. She beat the shit out of McKenna pretty badly, and should have easily won a, 30-27 if I remember. So that fight was not competitive. Now she's getting a top 15 shot against Lupita Godinez on short notice for Godinez, in a way. I don't even know how to describe how this fight came together. I like Polastri. I think she's talented. Again, one of my favorite female fighters. She's my profile pick for the fight week on Twitter, whatever you want to call it. I don't know if she's ready for this fight. Josephine Knudsen gave her problems about a year ago. I think Godinez is way better than Knudsen. Has way better grappling than Knudsen. So that's scary. Second of all, she's going to enemy territory. Third of all, I just don't know if she's ready for this shot. A few more years, maybe, but at 27 years old, in your third UFC fight, still kind of green. She did look really good against McKenna, but Corey McKenna's awful. So, we'll see. I would love nothing more than Polastri to win this fight. I'm going to biasly pick her, but if you want me to be honest, I'm worried. I don't think this is a good fight for her. Of course, you're not going to say no to a top 15 fight, but I don't think this is going to go well for her. Good luck. There's a chance she could win. I'll talk about that in a minute, but I don't know. It might be a little too much too soon. But you never know. Maybe she can rise to the occasion. Her first fight out of the Apex. That's another thing. So we'll see how she reacts to that. We'll see what happens. We'll see what Polastri can do in her biggest fight of her career. On very short notice. 1-1 in the UFC. Going from Corey McKenna to Lupita Godinez. Oh boy. To talk about Lupita, Lupi in the UFC is 7-5, even though that record could be a lot different if a few decisions went her way. her wins in the UFC have been Jessica Penne, she won that fight. Silvia Gomez Suarez, I think she beat Lana Carolina as well. Luma Lukbumi, Ariane Cornelosi, Cynthia Calvillo, Emily Ducote, Elise Reed, Tabitha Ricci, and then her losses have been Angela Hill, Verna Jandiroba, and Mackenzie Dern. Those losses ain't bad. Do I think that was a robbery? I don't remember. No. Yeah, those last 3 L's are not bad. 3 of the veterans as well, 2 veterans and Jandiroba, who's very good. So only 3 L's in the UFC, for being honest. She really should be 9-3 in the UFC because she got robbed against Penne and Carolina, in my opinion. Outside that, she had some really nice wins. Gomez Suarez, I think is a very underrated fighter. Luma Lukbumi is very underrated. I think she fights next week. Tabitha Ricci at the time was pretty good. Now she's kind of been exposed to being shitty. And then those losses, Angela Hill beats every goddamn prospect. Verna Jandiroba is almost getting a title shot. Probably should have been the backup for Tatiana Whaley. What would that tell you? And Mackenzie Dern just sucks. So I can't really give you an excuse there. You should beat Mackenzie Dern. Lupi is a decent fighter, but she's definitely a hot and cold fighter. Like, even in her wins, she's kind of looked shit at times. Like, that Calvillo fight should not have been close. Ducote was a pretty close fight, if I remember, so... But then you have times like the Elise Reed fight where she just dominates. So I don't know why she looks so goddamn hot and cold. But she has all the talent in the world to be a top 10 fighter. But she just underperforms so fucking badly. Like... Her grappling's where it's at. She's a very goddamn good grappler. For some reason, she tries to strike a lot, though, and that's kind of been her weakness. She's not an awful striker, but, like, why are you trying to strike with, like, fucking, Calvillo when you can easily take her down, or shit like that? Ricci, I get striking with, because you're both really good grapplers, even though I think she'd probably out-grapple Ricci, but what does that tell you? She had lost some grappling matches to Jandiroba. That was mainly on the floor, and Dern. That was a good chunk of that was on the floor. So, I think Lupi's a talented fighter, but she is a very hot and cold one at the same time, so... We'll see what Lupi shows up here. If the Lupi that showed up in the Reed fight, who's just a goddamn dominator, shows up, good luck, Polastri. But if the one that shows up against Calvillo and shit like that shows up... This is going to be a tight fight, so we're going to find out. I think Lupi's very talented, but she's very, very hot and cold at times, so just depends on what Lupi shows up. The Bangouts vs. fight are actually way closer than I ever thought they would have been, with Lupi Godinez being minus 180 to plus 145. What about Topology? Yeah, that's about more I expected. I'm shocked how close the odds are. I don't think they're that much, I think they're about that even right now, because I know Topology hasn't updated in a few days. So I think even now they're about the same odds, though. I would have thought Godinez would be like minus 300. But they must be looking at those 2 L's. But I don't know, I would probably have Lupi a bigger favorite. Even like, and this is again me being unbiased, Lupi should probably be like minus 250. A proven fighter like Lupi against a 1-1 prospect who got beat by a worse grappler, someone who's not in the UFC anymore, that's kind of shady. So I like Polar, but I would definitely have these odds a lot more one-sided toward Lupi. So I'm pretty shocked they are as close as they are, and this is coming from someone who's going to biasly pick Polastri here. If I was picking this fight legitly, I'd take Lupi. I think she should be able to win this fight. If she fights smart, she should win. They're the same height, same reach almost. If she just focuses on taking Polastri down for 15 minutes, she should win this fight. Knudsen had success in that realm. I don't know why Lupi wouldn't. Again, I would be more shocked if she tries to strike with Polastri. This could go bad for Lupi. Polastri has a little bit of power in her hands and is a decent striker, which I think she's a better striker than Godinez. So it's all gonna come down to what Godinez's game plan is. Cause I highly doubt Polastri has got a great takedown defense in a year, because Knudsen took her down pretty easily most of the time in that fight. So we're gonna find out. again, if Godinez is smart, she turns into goddamn Khabib. But we're gonna find out. If I was unbiased, I would take Lupita Godinez. Since I'm biased, my pick is going to be Julia Polastri, even though I just don't really see her winning. I hope she does, but I just have a lot of doubt that she does. So we'll see though. We'll see if she can either make stuffed takedowns or Godinez doesn't even go for them. Then we're in business. So we're gonna see what happens. We're gonna really see what fucking happens here. So, what I do know is my biased pick is gonna be Julia Polastri by decision. But if I was unbiased, I'd take Godinez. I'm again very shocked at how close the odds have this fight. So, let's see what happens though. Unbiasedly, Godinez. Biasedly, and the pick I'm going to make, Julia Polastri. Should be an interesting fight. After that, we got back-to-back fights I'm not going to waste a lot of time on because I don't want to talk about these fights. Not because they're bad, because the fighters in them are. At least one of them, Costa, is very good. As in our 5th fight of the night in the featherweight division. Yes, this guy's already back after just fighting. We head back to featherweight, which again I told you we're just going to lightweight and featherweight back and forth. As in our 5th fight of the night, we have Melquizael Costa versus Christian Rodríguez. I'm not gonna waste your time. Yes, Costa is already back after just beating Andre Fili a few weeks ago, which is batshit insane. I'm gonna take Costa to win this fight. Fuck C-Rod. He's not good. Who has he fucking beat? He lost to Bulgarian. He beat Rosas, who's not good. Cameron Saimon has fell off a cliff. Austin Batchy's dog shit. He lost to an old washed Rosa. He's not good. Give me Costa by decision. I don't care. I will not pick Rodríguez. He's a fucking bum. I do not care. Give me Costa by decision. Simple as that. I'm not gonna waste time. I'm not gonna even pretend like I do. Fuck C-Rod. He's not good. He beats shitty fighters. Please beat this tomato can. Erosa made it look pretty easy. You should also. Costa by decision. Fuck you, C-Rod. After that, we go to our co-main event of the prelims, the worst fight on the card. Why is it the co-main then? I don't fucking know. The UFC is stupid. As we go to our co-main event of the prelims, all the way up to the middleweight division, I believe is where we're at now. Yes, it is. As in our co-main event of the prelims, we have some young and not very well. We got one young prospect and one complete joke of a fighter. As we have Ateba, the silent assassin Gautier, I have no idea how to say his name, versus José Chinko Medina. Cameroon versus Bolivia. Fucking soccer called, they want their matchup back. Low-level MMA at its finest, ladies and gentlemen. A 6-1 prospect from Contender Series who could be very good or very bad, and a 11-4 tomato can who lost in the Contender Series badly, got a contract for no reason, and sucks. Oh Christ! Not gonna waste your time here. I'll talk about Ateba, and that's about it. To talk about one of our only 2 debutantes on the card, Ateba, 22 years old, very young, 1-0 coming off Contender Series. He beat Yura Niato. Looked decent, but he seems so goddamn green. He beat a lot of tomato cans on a regional scene, lost to one of them. His best regional scene win was fucking 17-13. He beat a dude who was 2-23. Jesus fucking Christ. He has good power. Striking's alright. Ground game, I don't know if we saw that on the Contender Series. He has went 15 minutes twice. He has fell in love with knocking people out, which could be a bad thing, because we know when prospects do that, they kind of shit themselves when the fight doesn't go like that. And we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens when he fights a dude who he can't KO. Now I'm gonna click on Jose's profile. He's a complete joke. He's just a giant punch. Well, yeah, big. He's just a punching bag. He's just a tough punching bag. You can't KO him. You can't finish him. He just eats punches and taunts. He doesn't actually fight. He's not actually good. He's one of the worst fighters on the roster. One of the worst Contender Series signings of all time. And he's fucking pathetic, so yeah. The bang answers I have Ateba minus 550 to plus 400. I'd probably move that down a good amount because again, how does Ateba react when I don't know if I'm saying his name right either. I don't know how Ateba reacts when he fights a guy he can't KO. Because he's not going to KO Jose. Zachary Reese couldn't, dude who hits very hard for 15 minutes. So, I don't know if Ateba will. And that scares me, because how does he look halfway through round 2 when Jose's, like, not been fucking rocked once? So, gonna be interesting, gonna be very goddamn interesting. It's a low-level MMA, though. I don't think easy. We'll see how good Ateba is, and we know Jose's terrible, so, yeah. My pick here is gonna be Ateba by decision. I don't think he's gonna KO Jose. If Zachary Reese couldn't, I don't know if Ateba could. But we're gonna find out. I just have a feeling this is gonna look like a low-level MMA. Ateba's gonna probably gas in round 3 and have to survive. So, give me Ateba by decision. I don't think he's gonna be able to knock out Jose. And that could be really bad for him if he fucking freaks out when he doesn't go down when he hits him. Or he does KO him, which would be really fucking nice to see, but I don't know. We're gonna find out, though. Not much to say. Low MMA. Give me Ateba. I don't think he should be minus 550. He should probably be more minus 300, if we're being honest. 340 at most. And, yeah, give me Ateba by decision. I just had struggle to see him KOing Jose, who's the only good thing you'd say about him is tough as fuck. Besides that, yeah, he's terrible. Ateba by decision. I doubt he gets the KO. Yes, it looks like we're gonna get another prelims of all decisions. My bad, but I don't book this shit. As we go to our featured prelim, the hardest fight to predict on the card, in my opinion, but maybe it's easier than it looks. I don't know. I think it's a lot. I guess the odds think it's easy, but I think it's a pretty hard fight to predict. As in our featured prelim in the flyweight division, a very important division on this card. Obviously the main event, but the main event of the prelims is at flyweight as well. As we end the prelims with Edgar Cháirez versus Vergara. Very good fight. This could easily be fight of the night. Like, I think this was the first fight booked for this card, and that was already a banging fight to begin the card. So, this should be fun. This should be a really good fight. These two have bangers, and should be interesting to see who walks away with the W, so let's see what happens. We'll begin the breakdown of Edgar Cháirez, the Mexican of the fight. Edgar in UFC is 1-2-1. Really 1-2 because this really was a win. He got a short notice call after losing on Contender Series a few years ago to step in and fight Tatsuro Taira. He did pretty decent. He didn't do awful. He still lost pretty clearly, but he didn't do awful against Tatsuro. Then he had to deal with Daniel Lacerda for about half a year because the first fight he submitted him, but the ref didn't fucking see it. Bullshit. Then he beat Lacerda again by submission, shocker. And then after escaping that waste of time, he fought Joshua Van, who did beat him in one of the best, well, most of the Sphere fights were great, but one of the most memorable fights from the Sphere in a banger, where he had moments against Van had moments against him, and they had a war. Van did win that fight though, and now Edgar is 1-2 in the UFC. Now going back to a step down in competition against CJ Vergara, who is also very good, kind of like a dollar store Joshua Van. Edgar's good. I think he's kind of a decent fighter. His two losses have been Tatsuro Taira and Josh Van, who are amazing. And when he did fight a guy who's a can, he beat him twice pretty easily, so what does that tell you? He's 29 years old, pretty tall for the division, pretty tough as well. Decent striking, decent ground game. he's a pretty well-rounded, decent fighter. Can't really say much else. We've not seen a lot of him in the UFC, only 4 fights, but he's pretty good. I don't think he's top 15 level, but he could easily be top 20, 25 level. He's a very, very good fighter, it seems. Good striking, good, decent grappling, good cardio, good heart, tough to finish. Has given top 15 dudes a problem in Van and Cháirez. Cháirez is good. I think he's pretty good. The 11-6 record ain't great, but again, you have to factor in 2 of those L's are Josh Van and Tatsuro Taira. So, and his one on Contender Series is Clayton Carpenter, who at the time was very hyped up. Now we know he sucks, but still, Edgar Cháirez is pretty decent. To talk about his opponent, CJ Vergara. CJ in the UFC is 3-4. Didn't someone else on the fucking prelims have that type of record? It was Jamall Emmers, I believe. So another 3-4 fighter on this card. CJ coming off Contender Series. His 3 wins have been Clayton Rodríguez, Daniel Lacerda, and Vinicius Oliveira. 3 guys who are not in the UFC anymore, so that's not great. His losses have been Ode Osborne, Tatsuro Taira, Asu Almabayev, and Ramzan Timarov. God damn, this man has ran the goddamn gauntlet. Well, and Ode Osborne. I'm shocked he's still in the UFC after missing weight 3 times. That's fucking insane. I don't think CJ is a bad fighter, but he's definitely not the best. Like, again, he's done pretty decent work against Clayton, Lacerda, and Salvador, who are pretty terrible. Ode beat him, which that's not the greatest L in the world. Excuse me. Tatsuro Taira beat him as well as Edgar. I think Edgar did better against Taira. Asu Almabayev beat him, which that's not aging great, and Ramzan smashed him in about 3 minutes, which that's aged pretty well. So they've kind of fed him to the wolves again and again, and he's not really done great. He is pretty old for flyweight, 33 years old, which especially you want to be as young as possible at flyweight, and CJ is not that. He's a decent fighter. He's tough, but I guess Ramzan kind of cracked him pretty good. We'll see. We'll see if he can, like, again, I think he's kind of like a dollar store Joshua Van. He's pretty tough, high volume. Cardio is decent. Striking's decent. Grappling, not really seeing a lot of it. Again, pretty tough dude, and should give us a good fight here. Now, he beat a few cans. Can he get a real UFC win? Can he make weight? We're gonna find out. The betting odds for his fight have Edgar Cháirez -265 to +210. I probably have that down a little bit. I was going into this thinking this was the hardest fight on the card to predict, but after really breaking it down, it's not really. It actually is kind of simple. I probably have Edgar like -210 to 200. He should win. Like, after really looking over the fight and thinking about it, Edgar should win. Like, Edgar's fought 2 top-tier guys and gave them pretty good fights. CJ's fought a good amount and not really given much of a fight. So, you know, and like Edgar's a few years younger. I think kind of the better fighter. Could CJ pull off the upset? Yeah, I think the fight is still more close than the odds say. But I think Edgar should win. I think he's the better fighter, and we should see an Edgar Cháirez W to end the prelims, in my opinion. So, should still be a really good fight. I'd be shocked if this fight wasn't a banger, and could easily steal 5 tonight. I wouldn't be too shocked. So, never know. What I do know is my pick is going to be Edgar Cháirez, in what should be a pretty good fight. I was high to think it was closer than the odds think, but I don't know. I guess I thought more highly of CJ than he really was. Higher than CJ actually was, so that makes sense. So we'll see what happens. Maybe CJ can bring the upset in a fight that I think is closer than the odds say, but it still should be an Edgar Cháirez win, in my opinion. So give me Edgar Cháirez by decision to end the prelims with a banger and a fight that I thought was hard to predict, and it really was. But overall, yeah, pretty easy fight to predict. Edgar should win. So yeah, Edgar Cháirez by decision to give the Mexicans a W to end the prelims. So yeah, those are the prelims. Again, I think the second week in a row I don't have a finish on the prelims. Or did I have one on last week? I don't remember. What I do know is these prelims are not great. They're okay. Like, and this portion of it's not bad. This is going to be a banger. This could be interesting. This could be decent. This could be good. This could be alright. These two fights I don't have a lot of hope for, so the fights overall could be decent. The finishes could be very slim. Like, Costa could get a submission. Ateba could get a knockout. Outside of that, I'm not seeing a lot of finishes showing up on this card, so maybe it's just me, but I don't see a lot of finishers here. So we'll see if I'm wrong, but I'm not seeing a lot of finishes. I hope I'm wrong. I would love every fight to be a finish, but it's unlikely. Maybe the main card's better. I doubt it. As we go into our main card, 6 more fights to break down. More Mexicans on the main card, at least, which, you know, bare minimum, you could book that. So let's get into it. As we begin in the same weight class we just talked about, the flyweight division, a very busy weight class on this card, and we have one of their most interesting prospects to open up the main card, or maybe a guy who will be main eventing a card in Mexico sooner than later. You never know. The UFC would fucking love that, but he has to win this fight first. As we have in our main card opener, staying in the 125-pound division, we begin with Ronaldo Lazy Boy Rodríguez versus Kevin El Gallo Borjas. Yeah, they're feeding a prospect a layup. If we're being honest, they're giving a prospect a goddamn layup. Like, there's no need to pretend we know what the UFC is doing here. The betting odds are really slim for this fight, which they should be a lot wider, so. But maybe I'm wrong. I doubt it. Let's talk about it. Our first main card fighter of the night, Lazy Boy Rodríguez. Ronaldo in UFC is 2-0. He was on Contender Series a few years ago against Jerome Rivera and lost. Since he went on a nice winning streak, got a UFC contract, fought Dennis Bondar in his debut last year, won that, looked decent. Then in the Sphere, he opened up the main card against Ode Osbourne after the press conference of the year, where he was the star, and we all remember that. And he kind of shit the bed. He won the fight, but he did not look amazing at all. He almost got finished, I think, twice. He couldn't finish a guy in Ode Osbourne, who's not the most durable. He did not look great in that fight, and he should have looked better. Like, again, Ode is not some world beater, and he gave Ronaldo a really tough fight that Rodríguez almost did not win, so that's exactly why they're giving Ronaldo a layup after beating Ode in the Sphere, on the main card of the Sphere, instead of giving him a step up in competition, because they saw him almost lose to Ode, and they're like, oh shit, this kid is not ready. And he's not, because again, Ode Osbourne almost beat him. I think almost subbed him, no less. So, yeah. Lazy Boy has potential, but he definitely has a lot of time, because he's not ready yet. Again, his first 2 UFC fights have been Dennis Bondar, who's awful, and Ode Osbourne, who almost beat him. Now he's fighting Kevin Borjas, who's awful. He's just gaining experience. That's all the UFC is doing with the kid. They're giving him experience, which is cool. But it kind of feels weird to see him fighting Borjas after a win in the Sphere and being the star of the press conference, so. But UFC is being slow with him. They don't want to fucking kill him yet. So they're letting him get another win and go from there, so. See how he does. Getting a step down from Ode Osbourne with Kevin Borjas. Let's see how Lazy Boy looks. Let's see how he looks. No press conference, no Sphere. In Mexico, though, but I think his debut was in Mexico. So let's see how he looks. Should be interesting. Hopefully better. Less pressure. To talk about his opponent, Kevin Borjas, who is 0-2 in UFC after coming off the Contender Series and getting a contract. In his first 2 UFC fights, he's fought Joshua Van and Alessandro Costa. God, those are some tough-ass first 2 UFC fights. Josh Van, your debut in the Garden. Good goddamn luck, my guy. And Alessandro Costa, one of the best unranked guys in the division. Probably would be ranked if he could stay active. Yeah, I feel bad for this guy. Now he's fighting one of UFC's favorite prospects. Yeah, this poor guy's a 3-fight skid getting cut. Like, I don't know what you want me to say. Borjas is not good. He's pretty fucking terrible. 27 years old, was 9-2, 9-3 in the MMA. Yeah, this guy got a bet. If he would have got easier fights, he might have been able to do something, but Joshua Van, Alessandro Costa, Ronaldo, Rodríguez, just bad luck, buddy. Bad fucking luck at its finest, so what can you say, man? Maybe he springs the upset here and kills the UFC's plans and keeps his job, but it's highly goddamn unlikely. So, good luck, Borjas, but more than likely, this is your last UFC fight. Good luck, though. Man got fed to the goddamn wolves. The Bengals vs. fight are shockingly slim, with Lazy Boy only being minus 150 to plus 125. Lazy Boy should be like minus 270, 80. Yes, I know he looked bad against Ode Osborne. Ode Osborne's levels above Kevin Borjas, and I think Lazy Boy is as well. He's an inch taller and a few inches shorter in reach. Lazy Boy should win this fight easily. Van beat Borjas with ease. Costa smashed him with ease. Lazy Boy should do the same. Just take him down, do what he did against Ode, and win. He might even lock up a submission, you don't know, but I don't know. I could see a finisher. I really could, but I think he might just focus on, like, winning instead of fucking submissions. Maybe he gets a fucking submission, though. I don't know. I'm not sure. Borjas did get submitted, but that was his only loss before the UFC. He got rear naked choked in round 2 by a 13-6 fighter. Ew. Yeah. Lazy Boy might get a finish. I wouldn't be shocked. Was his debut in Mexico against Mondar? Because ain't that where he got a finish? Yes, in Mexico City a year ago in the same arena. 5 submission wins, 7 KOs, 4 decisions. Fuck. I kind of see him going out there and wanting to get the finish. The more I think about it, I think he's going to want to go out there and just finish Borjas. I think he's going to be angry. I think he's going to be motivated. I'm kind of feeling a Lazy Boy submission round 2. How many of those submissions were in round 2? Most of them. Yeah, give me a Lazy Boy by submission in round 2. I was thinking decision at first, but I kind of just, I don't see it. I really don't see it. I think he's going to get Borjas down and, like, lock up something and get a win. So, I'm feeling Lazy Boy submission round 2. I think he's going to go out there angry that he didn't look great against Ode, and going to go out there and try and get the kill. So, against a step down from Ode, give me Lazy Boy submission round 2. I think he should be able to go out there and lock up a submission in round 1 or 2 and get the win. So, Lazy Boy submission round 2. Am I going to regret not picking decision? I goddamn hope not. But, I don't know. I think he can get the finish. So, the more I think about this fight in my head, I just picture him getting a submission. I don't see him grinding out a decision. I think he's going to be angry. He's going to want that finish, and I think he's going to get it. So, give me a Lazy Boy submission round 2, I think. Sounds good. Good way to open the main card. Very good way to open the main card. Let's see how he looks. We'll see if Lazy Boy can bounce back after a disappointing performance in the Sphere. After that, we go to our second fight of the main card, our other debutant of the card, and no, it's not this guy, even though you've probably never seen him fight, because he hasn't fought in 2 goddamn years. And then our second fight of the night, not going to waste a lot of time here, because there's not a lot to say. Excuse me. We have in our second fight of the main card in the Bantamweight division. Excuse me, goddamn. We have David Black Spartan Martinez versus Saimon Oliveira. So David Martinez is our other debutant of the night, not Saimon Oliveira, who hasn't fought in 2 goddamn years. Why is he still signed? I don't know either. So yeah, I think we know what the UFC is trying to do here. I fucking wonder. Let's talk about it. Not gonna say a lot about this fight, because again, we know what the UFC is doing here, so let's not waste a lot of time, as we will begin with the debutant and the Mexican debutant, David Martinez. David is making the UFC debut, as I've said, coming off the Contender Series, where he looked okay. He is the brother of, what's her name? Melissa Martinez? Who just fought not that long ago. Is that her name? Is it Melissa? Yeah, that was fucking, yeah. Super Melly. Yeah, he's her brother, who's not, who I think, just from one fight, I think is way better than Melissa is. He looked decent on Contender Series, didn't get it finished, didn't even get close, but he did look decent, showed some really good striking. On a winning streak, only one loss in his career, and it was a split decision, so who knows if he actually lost that fight. Is Francisco Rivera a former UFC guy? So he did beat a former UFC fighter, too bad he was fucking 39. He was a champion outside in Combate Global. Again, the brother of a UFC fighter, so he kind of knows what it feels like to an extent. Looked decent on Contender Series. I think him and Melissa were the first brother-sister to get to both win contracts on Contender Series, so that's cool. Very few brother-sisters in the UFC that I could fucking remember. So let's see how Martinez looks in his debut. Looked good on Contender Series, showed some really crisp striking. See how he looks here? Against a returning opponent, that's English, opponent, who's back after a 2-year hiatus. Simon Oliveira, another Contender Series alum. He got a contract all the way back in 2021 off a split decision. How did he get a contract off of that? I don't know. Was he like a giant underdog or something? No, he's expected to win. Why the fuck did he get a contract off a split decision? I don't get it. Hey, he beat a Mexican. Ooh, so he has experience. What he doesn't have experience in is looking good in the UFC, because he's not. And in the UFC debut, he looked completely awful against Tony Gravely. I swear I remember him just going for goddamn guillotines all fight, or something along those lines. Something stupid like that. I remember him just looking awful. And he was like the favorite or something. Nope. I know I picked him, because I'm a fucking idiot. I know I picked him. I guess I saw something in him on Contender Series, I don't know what. But then in his next fight against Daniel Marcos, I predicted him to lose, and I was right. That was a genius prediction by me. He was a favorite, and he got completely starched. He kind of did the same shit. He's very predictable and very easy to beat, and I predicted him to win. God damn it, I thought Marcos was the underdog on Tapology. Fuck. He's not good. When we saw him 2 years ago, he was not good at all. He didn't go to shoot the box. I'm like, come on, you gotta go follow in the Oliveira's footsteps. But no, like, he wasn't even good. Like, all I remember from his first 2 UFC fights was against Gravely, he just kept going for a guillotine or something stupid like that. And against Marcos, he just got his body ripped apart. Like, I don't remember this dude doing anything that special. And even on Contender Series, I don't even remember his fucking fight or why he got a contract. So maybe after a 2-year break, 33 years old now, getting some fucking time to get older, maybe he's gonna come back better, but I doubt it. Like, unless he can get Martinez on the ground and sub him, which is unlikely, more than likely he's just gonna take another ass beating and get cut, so I don't think a 2-year break is going to make you much better. Like, he's probably still not a good striker. He probably still is going to get beat up pretty easily. And I'll probably be that for Simon Oliveira in the UFC. Because in his first 2 UFC fights, yeah, he fought decent competition. Tony Gravely was actually a pretty forgotten, decent fighter. And Daniel Marcos is undefeated, even though I don't think he's that good. But story for a different time. What I do know is now he's fighting David Martinez coming in his UFC debut. Maybe he can shock the kid and beat him, but I doubt it. So unless he's learned how to strike or he has better takedowns, he's probably going to lose again. It's just like he did 2 years ago. The betting odds will agree with me, having David Martinez minus 400 to plus 310. Yeah, it's hard to not have him about 400. Even if you want to go to like a 410, 415, you can. Like, how does Martinez lose this fight? Oliveira takes him down and subs him? It's unlikely. It's very unlikely. More than likely, Martinez stuffs his takedown for 15 minutes, beats him up, and wins. He's 2 inches taller, pretty much the same reach. I'm not too worried for Martinez here. He should be able to do exactly what he did on the Contender Series. Win a nice 15-minute striking battle. So, maybe he gets a finish. I wouldn't be too shocked. But I'm going to say he probably wins a decision, beating the shit out of Saimon for 15 minutes of that decision. stuffing takedowns, and that will be that. So, give me David Martinez by decision in what should be a pretty one-sided beatdown, like most of Saimon Oliveira's fights. Pretty simple. Again, I wouldn't be shocked at a finish, but I'm not going to hold my breath. After that, we go to some can crushing. Not going to waste your time here. We all know what's going to happen, and no one cares. And then our third fight of the main card. God, we're tired of this bullshit already. We stay at bantamweight for a fight with another Mexican prospect. I think Martinez is better, as we have our normal... If this is just normal for a Mexican card, as we have Raul El Nino Problema Rosas Jr. versus Vince Vendetta Morales. Our normal Raul Rosas can crushing. Nothing new. I'm not even gonna waste your time. I'm so tired of this shit. I don't know if anyone else is, but does anyone care about Raul Rosas anymore? We get it. He's 20 years old or whatever. He's not good. He should not be in the fucking UFC right now. What has he fucking done? He's looked terrible. Jay Perrin, garbage. C-Rod, garbage, and you lost to him. Terrence Mitchell, garbage. The only good thing, he showed a little bit of striking. He hasn't brought that back. Ricky Torcios, garbage. Richie Lang, he looked garbage against, and he could have lost that fight. He's not good. I'm tired of this shit. I don't care if he's 20 years old, 18 years old, whatever. Cool story. He's not ready for the UFC. And he's just beating cans. We're wasting goddamn time. This dude has no chance against any top 50. Bantamweight. Cody Garbrandt, even the worst ones you can think of. Cody Garbrandt, Payne Talbot, fucking Davey Grant, all smash him. He's not good. Yes, he's gonna win this fight. Good job, you can beat Vince Morales 2 months, not even after he just lost to a better prospect than Elijah Smith. Raul Rosas, by decision, he's gonna look like shit. Might even lose this fight, to be honest, because Morales looked pretty good against Elijah Smith. He might beat Rosas, to be honest. I would not be very shocked if he did, because Rosas is just not talented at all. He has good grappling. Kinda. His striking is abysmal. His powers we only saw it one time, and he never showed it again. I'm not sold on this kid until he actually proves something. I'm tired of this. This shit should be on the goddamn prelims. He's not. Fuck, this shit should be on the local Mexican regional show. Because Rosas is not ready for the UFC. In 5 years, maybe. That's how long it took Chase Hooper. But all you're doing is wasting our time with a guy who's not fucking ready. Raul Rosas by decision against a can. Even though Vince could beat him. If Richie Lang almost beat you, Vince, who actually looked pretty good in his last fight about a month ago, could beat him. I would not be shocked, but more than likely, Raul Rosas could get a finish, could get a submission, but it's unlikely. Elijah Smith could not really get Vince down. I doubt Raul will, but he'll still find a way to fall ass backwards into a win. Giving Raul Rosas by decision, a waste of fucking time. He's not good. He's not ready to be here. It's that simple. It's fucking annoying. So, until he's fighting someone legit, I'm not gonna waste time breaking down his fights. So, simple. Motherfucker calling for a top 15 fight after looking like ass against a Richie Lang. Have some fucking... whatever. Let's get to our fourth fight of the main card, what should be the co-main event of the evening, and another fight between kinda embarrassing fighters, but at least I can respect these two, because they should, well, should they be here? That's debatable. And then our fourth fight of the main card, again, somehow this is not the co-main event of the evening, but whatever. We head to middleweight, well, at least right now it's middleweight until someone misses weight, as we have Kelvin Gastelum versus Joe Bodybags Pfeiffer. We have the fat fuck who doesn't even care about fighting or making weight against the fraud that Dana for some reason has the weirdest love for. Great fight. Still should be the co-main, but whatever. Not much to say about this fight. I think we know what's going to happen, but let's still talk about it a little bit, as we'll begin with our favorite fat, lazy bitch, Kelvin Andrew Ruiz Gastelum. 33 years old, even though I swear I feel like he should be older. 13-9-1 in the UFC. not gonna go down his whole UFC career. I'll go down the last couple years. His last 3 fights, he beat Chris Curtis back in 2023. Then he pretended he was gonna move down to welterweight and fought. Did he actually make weight for that fight? Or did that fight get moved up? No, he weighed in at 170, so I'll give him respect there. He did fight Sean Brady at welterweight on weight. Got completely fucking demolished. Still put up more of a fight than Leon Edwards, but, you know. And then against Daniel Rodríguez, he was meant to... That was the fight. It was meant to be at welterweight, and he was a fat fuck, and it was moved to middleweight, so... Yeah. Dana really did not like that, but he did easily beat D-Rod as expected, because... Like, the thing with KG, like, if he was just not a lazy bitch, he's not a terrible fighter. He's just a lazy bitch. Again, I call him Andrew Ruiz. It's kind of on the nose, because Andrew Ruiz is a decent dude. He has talent. He beat Anthony fucking Joshua, but he stopped trying. Kelvin Gastelum almost beat fucking prime Izzy. That fight's going in the goddamn UFC Hall of Fame this year. So, but it just seems like he stopped trying after that. Lost to Darren Till, lost to Jack Hermanson, beat Ian Heinisch, good job. Lost to Whitaker, understandable. Lost to Cannonier, understandable. Took a 2-year break, fought Chris Curtis and won that in a pretty good fight, understandable. Then you should win that. Lost to Sean Brady, fine. And then beat D-Rod, but he did that lazy bullshit. So, and now, like, his media day photos, he's fat as fuck. Like, dude, if you don't want to fucking cut weight, go to a different sport. Like, just move up to light heavyweight. Like, enough, dude. This shit's getting goddamn annoying. He's just lazy. He has talent. He's not a bad fighter. He's a decent striker. His ground game is terrible. But he's a decent striker. He's tough as nails. He's never been KO'd. He probably will never be KO'd. But he has all the talent. Again, we watched that Izzy fight. He almost fucking beat him. He fucking did really good. And even before then, he beat some pretty decent guys. But he could have been pretty good at welterweight, but he would have to not eat, which, you know, for him is impossible. And at middleweight, he could be decent, but he just fell off a goddamn cliff. So, like, I would rather see a fighter fall off because they got older than because they're not trying and they're lazy. Because if you're just not trying and you're lazy, that's a slap in the face to every fan. I forgot he was meant to fight Shavkat. Holy shit, he would have died. It's just a goddamn slap in the face. You don't even care. That's a slap in the face to every fan, to the promotion, to Dana, to your opponent. Like, what he did to D-Rod was disgusting. Yes, D-Rod was going to lose that fight either way, but at least attempt to make the weight, dude. Like, fuck. Like, at least Andrew Ruiz fights at heavyweight, and he's not missing weight. He's lazy, but at least he still makes weight. Dude, you're trying to fight at middleweight, and you're short. Like, what the fuck, man? If you miss weight tomorrow, because I'm recording this on Thursday, like always, if he misses weight tomorrow at the weigh-ins, I swear to fucking God they gotta cut this guy. Because this is just silly. He hasn't missed weight in a long time, I'll give him that. He hasn't missed weight since he was at welterweight 10 years ago. But if he misses weight tomorrow after all the bullshit, after everyone talked to him about this bullshit, he deserves whatever happens to him. He should be cut, like I said, but if he makes weight tomorrow, fine. Stay at middleweight. You don't have to cut much weight. Whatever. But come on, man. It's just getting old with you, man. And then, like I said, he has talent. We've seen it. He's not that old yet. He's only 33. He could like, with how shit middleweight is, and especially how much they love to keep guys in the rankings, he could easily be top 15 still. Like, he could easily still be top 15, but he fucking ate himself out of the top 15. So, I don't know what you want me to say. He keeps wanting to do this welterweight run, but he's never going to. So, I don't know what you want me to say. To talk about, yeah, my voice cracked like a bitch there. To talk about his opponent, Joe Pyfer, one of Dana's favorite fighters for some reason, even though he's not good. 4-1 in the UFC, 1-1 on Contender Series, even though it's really 1-0-1 because his one loss on Contender Series was a broken arm on a takedown, so I'm not going to count that. Contender Series, he knocked out Ozzy Diaz, which somehow that's not aging awful. Since coming to UFC, he's had 4 wins: Alan Almadovsky, Gerald Mearshart, Abdul Razak Al Hassan, and Marc-Andre Barriute. And his one loss was in his main event last year against Jack Hermanson, where he got fraud checked. Pyfer's a fun fighter, not a contender. He knocks people out. He knocks cans out, let me get that right, and then that's it. And he actually has a decent grappling game. So he's a very good striker with good power, and he has a decent grappling game, but his cardio is not built for 5 rounds, barely built for 3. And in his one, they gave him maybe the easiest guy in the rankings at the time, and he shit the bed. Like, badly, so. I don't know what you want me to say. He's a fraud until proven otherwise. So, maybe he'll get better. I think he's still young. He's only 28. He has all the tools. Again, he has good power in his hands, and he is a good striker. He has a decent grappling game. But I swear he's more focused on goddamn Twitter trolls than anything else. So, we'll see. This should be another layup for him, because, again, Dana goddamn loves this kid for some reason. And, yeah, we'll see how he looks here. So, we'll see. He should win this fight pretty easily, but this should be interesting to see how he looks against a guy he can't KO. Kind of the same thing I said earlier with the Jose Medina fight, because I think that kind of idea applies to this as well. How does Pyfer look against a guy he can't KO? At least when he couldn't KO Jack Hermanson, he lost. So we'll see how he looks here. Just not a lot to say about Pyfer. He beat up some cans, got beat by the one guy he couldn't just drop in one punch. Now let's see how he does against another veteran who he won't be able to just knock out in one punch. Should be interesting. He might lose this, to be honest. It's unlikely he will lose this, but you never know. If his cardio doesn't hold up after round 1, could have some problems, but we'll see. What we'll also see is these betting odds. Joe Pyfer minus 550 to plus 400. Yeah, I don't know about having 550, because I don't even think he is that high of a favorite anymore. I'd probably have him like minus 400. He should win this pretty easily. More than likely he bags the first 2 rounds. He might drop Kelvin, because I know Kelvin can be dropped. I know Izzy did it. I know Jared Cannonier did it. I think Whitaker did it. So we know Kelvin can be dropped, but he can't be finished like that. So maybe Pyfer goes for a grappling game plan, which wouldn't be bad, and he could lock up submission there. But more than likely he's going to try and strike with him, and that'll probably lead to a decision win for Pyfer, so that's probably what I'm going to go with. Wow. 67% think he's going to knock it out. I don't see it. Kelvin's never been knocked out, and I don't think that changes Saturday. So, give me Joe Pyfer by decision. Again, it's unlikely he knocks him out. It's unlikely he could go for a submission, which has been Kelvin's weakness at times. I wouldn't be shocked by that, but more than likely I see him just striking for 15 minutes and winning that way. So, give me Joe Pyfer by decision. Again, could Kelvin win this fight? I guess, but he would need a lot of stars to align. He would need Pyfer to gas out really quickly, like after round 1. Because I think Pyfer will probably bag the first 2 rounds and gas out in round 3. I could see a 29-28 decision here, or a 30-27 if he doesn't gas. So, we're going to find out. How does Pyfer do against a guy he can't KO? Let's find out. Give me Joe Pyfer by decision. Kelvin's best time has kind of passed him, mainly because he can only blame himself for that. But you never know. He could pull off an upset here. Pyfer is not very good, but he has all the tools to be. So, if that makes sense. He just hasn't beat anyone, and this won't really help his case either. But he will get a top 15 fight if he wins this. I can bet your fucking ass. So, but give me Joe Pyfer by decision. I'm just rambling on at this point. I don't see this fight being that crazy. I think the biggest moment of the fight will be Pyfer drops him in like round 2 or some bullshit and never finishes him. So, yeah. Give me Joe Pyfer by decision. Pretty simple. I doubt he can finish KG. But a fight I know there will be a finish in is our co-main event of the evening. What I don't think should be the co-main, even though I do think this fight's awesome. The co-main should be Pyfer Gastelum, but that's besides the point. Our actual co-main is this banger in the lightweight division. That's 100% going to be a finish and knockout at that. As in our co-main event of the evening, we head back to lightweight for what, the fourth time on this card, I believe, 3rd or 4th time, for a very good fight that should be fun and should not go long, as in our coming event of the evening, we have Manuel El Loco Torres versus Drew Dober, the Megajin, or whatever you want to call him, model boy. What a fight. Someone's getting KO'd, and it's gonna be fun. Can't wait. Not even though this fight, like, I say that like we don't know who's gonna win this fight. We all know who's gonna win this fight, so let's just get it out the way. Let's talk about it. We will begin with the fraud and the Mexican of the equal main event of the evening, Manuel Torres. Manny in UFC 3-1, 1-0 Contender Series. We know his UFC career. Sorry, my voice is starting to go now. He won 3 fights in a row. Camacho, Moda, Duncan all looked flawless in those fights, and then Ignacio Bahamondes fraud checked him into oblivion. Yeah, he's not that good. Like, he looked good against some tomato cans, and Chris Duncan's a nice win, but it's aging good, but I'm still not high on Chris Duncan. I think I even talked about this fight a little bit last week, how that's not a great L for Duncan. But, yeah, man, he's not good. Like, that Ignacio Bahamondes fight was embarrassing. The dude ran into punches face first. The fuck are you doing? So, yeah. If you're doing that against Ignacio, Dober's gonna kill this poor kid. Speaking of the devil, Drew Dober. Dober in the UFC, a veteran we all know and love, 36 years old, 13-10-1 in the UFC, not gonna go down his whole Yachi fucking line, he deserves it. His wins in the UFC, his most notable wins I will say, have been Jamie Varner, Scott Holtzman, I don't know who that is, Josh Berkman, Frank Camacho, John Tuck, Polo Reyes, Nazar Hakparas, Alexander Hernandez, Terrence McKinney, Rafael Alves, Bobby Green, and Ricky Glenn. His losses in the UFC have been, whoever the fuck Sean Spencer, Nick Heenar, and Ifan Escardo, Oliver Urban Mercer, Benio Dariush, Islam Makhachev, Brad Riddell, Matt Favola, Renato Moicano, and Gene Silva. And he had a draw, a no contest, with Leonardo Silva. Dober, we all know Dober. We all love Drew Dober. One of the most exciting fighters in UFC. Has tied Dustin Poirier for the knockout record at lightweight. Probably going to break it this fight with 9. Going to get his 10th win here. We love Dober. He hits like a truck. He's a fun fighter. Never has a boring fight if he has his way. And never been a top guy. He's not a top 15 level guy, but he's good enough to beat these lesser fighters. A few good wins in his UFC career. Nazar Hakparas, probably his best one. Terrence McKinney, Bobby Green, Rafael Alves, some pretty good wins there. Going on a little bit bad of a streak right now, but Favola was on a roll at that point in time. Moicano was on a roll at that point in time. Gene Silva is fucking amazing. So, you can expect Dober kind of to go on a little bit of a streak there, but he's going to get back on track here fighting Manuel Torres. I don't know what you really want me to say about Dober, outside of he never has a boring fight. If he has his way, win or lose. He hits like a goddamn truck. He's probably going to break the knockout record at lightweight here. And we all love Drew Dober. 36 years old, still got a lot left in the tank, he says. So let's see him prove it. Not very much I'll say. A veteran like Dober. 13-10 in the UFC. Been in the UFC for over 10 years now. His 12th year. And every year we love Drew Dober just the same. Should be a fan favorite. I don't know how anyone could not love Drew Dober. The betting odds don't love Drew Dober, having him in a pick'em in this fight for some fucking reason. Dober should be a minus like 200 here almost. I wouldn't say 200 and more than, I'd say 190. He should win this fight pretty easily. Like, again, Manuel Torres ran into punches against Ignacio Bahamondes. No hate to Ignacio. Ignacio's great. But Dober's a more powerful striker. And he's a better striker with his fists. Bahamondes is a kickboxer. Dober is a better striker. And if Manny's just going to run into punches, he's going to fucking die against Drew Dober. So, like, yeah, he's taller by 2 inches and has a 3-inch reach advantage, but if he's just going to run into punches, Dober's going to fucking kill him. So, give me Drew Dober by knockout in the first. He should win this fight pretty easily. He should be a pretty big favorite. I just don't see, like, Manny got his first real test against Ignacio and got smashed. Dober is not far off from Ignacio. Like, Ignacio's top 15. I would say Dober is a top 20, 25 guy at lightweight. Manny is not. Dober should win this fight pretty easily. If he just, unless Manny comes in here with a new game plan, which is unlikely, Dober should go in there and fucking put Torres out cold like Ignacio did. So, give me Drew Dober by knockout in the first. Could Torres land a knockout shot? Yes, we've seen Dober knocked out a good amount of times at this point. Fucking Matt Favola and Gene Silva both hurt him pretty badly. But I don't think Manuel has the striking of those two. And if he thinks he's just going to run head first into Drew Dober and not get knocked out for it, he's fucked. Give me Drew Dober by knockout first. I don't know why he's not a bigger favorite. I don't know how this is a pick'em. I get Dober's 36 years old on a losing streak, but Manuel Torres is a fraud who runs into punches, so I'm not too worried for Drew. Give me Drew Dober knockout first. It's unlikely he chokes this easy win. So don't choke this easy win. Pretty simple. Dober, knockout first. Sorry, Dustin, but that KO record at lightweight's gonna be Drew's. Simple as that. And now, time for our main event of the evening. And going back to the flyweight division for Mexico's favorite son, as we have to end UFC Mexico City 2025, just like we did UFC Mexico City 2024 last year, because this guy main evented that card as well, almost a year ago, I believe. Hopefully he doesn't choke this one and actually wins. As in our main event of the evening, our final fight of the night, we went from 1 to 13, back at flyweight, to end UFC Mexico City. And in our main event, we have Brandon, the Assassin Baby Moreno versus Steve Astro Boy Erceg. Decent fight, even if it's pretty predictable what's going to happen. Mexico's favorite son, in Moreno, back as always. He's in the main event. I'm tired of Moreno main events, to be honest. I love Moreno, of course, but I don't care to see him fight for 25 minutes again. I'd rather see Alexa Grasso and Taylor Silva main event. I know that fight's about a month and a half away or whatever, but that should be on this card, the main eventing. So, I guess they're slim for Mexican main eventers. I know it's him or Grasso, but I'd rather see Grasso. I'd rather see this fight in Canada and Grasso here, but what can you fucking do? But, yeah, good main event. Gonna be a fun fight, but God, I'm tired of watching Moreno fight for 25 minutes. That's all the dude's been doing for fucking, 6 years now, it feels like, so. But at least he has fun fights most of the time, so let's see what happens here. Let's talk about the hometown favorite, Brian Moreno, first for our main event breakdown. 10, 5, and 2 in UFC at 31 years old, still very young. In his last fight, he got back on track against Amir Albazi. Was he the underdog in that fight? No, he was a favorite. He looked amazing in that fight. Maybe the best he has since the Kai Car France fight. When was the last time he had a 3-rounder? Royval back in 2020. Crazy. Speaking of Royval, that was the last time he was in Mexico City last year, losing to Royval in that rematch, where he did not look good. But now he got back on track against Amir Albazi, and now he's back again against Steve Erceg. He's kind of in a lose-lose situation here, because if he wins this fight, he's not getting a title shot. He's not going to get a third fight with Pantoja, or a fourth fight, when you've lost 3 times. And if he loses the fight. So he's kind of in a lose-lose here. He's too small to go up to bantamweight. So I kind of feel bad for Brandon. He's kind of in a... He really better be a Kai Car France fan if he wants a title shot, because unless Kai beats Pantoja, Brandon's just going to be doing fight night bullshit for a while, because you can't sell him Pantoja Moreno 4 when Moreno has lost 3 goddamn times. So, and no, this fight was not, Moreno did not get robbed. I don't think so. Maybe it's just me. I don't think he got robbed, so what did that tell you? But we all know Moreno, very good striker, quick hands. Not really the most powerful, but he has shown power before. ground game's not awful, but it's not amazing. He's very well-rounded, very good fighter, still pretty young, 31 years old in his, what was it, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9th main event in a row. Or at least 9th 5-rounder in a row, I should say, because I know this and this didn't main event, or this. So, but back main eventing in a 5-rounder. He'd been here before, at home in Mexico. Hopefully he looks a little better this time in Mexico City, unlike last year. Only one way to find out. To talk about his opponent, the former champion Steve Erceg. Erceg in the UFC is 4-1. His 4 wins have been David Dvorak, Alessandro Costa, Matt Schnell, and Alexander Pantoja, and he lost to Kai Kara France. Erceg peaked winning the belt. Like he beat Pantoja, and then he lost to Kai Kara, which he should have won that fight. I still think he's probably better than Kai Kara, but what did that tell you? I feel bad for him here, because he was meant to fight Asu Almabayev a few months, about earlier in the month, but he got pulled for this fight in Mexico, so, because I think they had a scramble for a main event, because they were probably going to do, I think they wanted to do Diego Lopez, Jair Rodríguez, and that got fucking scrambled because it's a stupid fight, and then they were like, fuck it, call Erceg, we'll do Erceg Moreno, because I don't know who else Moreno was going to fight here. Maybe Manel Kopp could have been cool, but I guess they picked Erceg, so he's kind of the unlucky guy who has to fly out there and fight Moreno. We'll see if he can get back on track here. It's unlikely. I don't see him beating Moreno. Like, yeah, he beat Pantoja. MMA Math tells you he beat Pantoja, he should beat Moreno, but MMA Math never fucking worked. Losing Kai Kara France a guy Moreno beat twice, so MMA Math is kind of flipping the fuck out in that regard. Again, I think he peaked after winning the belt, so kind of some Cody Garbrandt shit. He's still young, 29 years old, he's very talented, but this is not the fight he needed after losing to Kai. He needed an Asu Almabayev, or fucking Tim Elliott, or fucking, who else could, like, Alex Perez he needed. He didn't need Moreno after losing to Kai. It's just, I get it, you had to throw something together, but you're kind of screwing Steve here, so. But you never know, he could pull off the upset, but I just don't see it happening. I'd be not super surprised, but I'd be a good amount surprised, so yeah. The betting after this fight have Brand Moreno minus 195 to plus 165. I agree. You'd have Moreno 200 in my opinion. He should win this fight, kind of the same way he beat Albazi. I think he's just better. Erceg is so good, but Moreno's better. Especially the Moreno we saw against Albazi. Yeah. In Mexico with biased judging. Why do you think this was a goddamn split decision? In that altitude, Erceg coming off a bad loss to Kai Kara, a guy Moreno have beat twice. It's hard not to pick Moreno here. I love Erceg. I love Moreno. I love both these guys. I think we all do. They're both some of the most likable guys in the division, let alone the UFC. But I don't see Erceg winning this fight over 25 minutes. Like striking, I think they're both good strikers. I think Moreno's a little quicker, but Erceg has the power advantage. Grappling, they're not gonna hit the mat. If they did, I don't know who would have the advantage, because I don't really look at either of these guys as top tier grapplers. I would probably maybe Erceg, since he did better on the mat against Pantoja than Moreno did, I would say. And then cardio, which I think is going to be the main topic of this fight. I think they both got good cardio, but I might lean Moreno because he's had 5-round experience more than Erceg. This is only Erceg's second 5-rounder in the UFC, I'm guessing, of his whole career, and also. So, it's hard not to pick Moreno. Like, a lot of factors point at Moreno, and I'm going to go Moreno. So, give me Brand Moreno by decision. My first time picking against Steve Erceg in UFC. I've picked him all 5 times, got 4 of them right, but I just can't pick him here. Striking, I think Moreno's a little bit better. Cardio, I think Moreno has more experience going 5, and ground game, that's not really going to be a big factor. I doubt it. In Mexico, in that altitude, with biased judging, Erceg's only an inch taller, but has an inch and a half reach disadvantage. Give me Brand Moreno by decision. I struggle to see him losing this fight after how good he looked against Albazi. I think it will be kind of the same as that fight. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't. If I am cool, I'm a fan of both these guys. I don't care who wins. But if I'm making a pick, give me Brian Moreno by decision to end UFC Mexico City, getting revenge for what happened last year in Mexico City when he got beat by Royval and looked probably the worst he ever has. And go see what happens next. Again, he better cheer Kai Kara-France on if he wants that title shot. But he has to win this first. So we'll see. To end UFC Mexico City, sorry Steve, but my pick is the assassin baby, Brandon Moreno, by decision. Boom! That's the card. To go over my picks one more time. MarQuel Mederos by decision. Jamall Emmers by decision. Rafa García, my lock of the night by decision. My biased pick of Julia Polastri by decision. Melquizael Costa by decision. Adeba Gautier by decision. I will never learn how to say that. Edgar Cháirez by decision. Ronaldo Rodríguez by submission in the second. David Martinez by decision. Raul Rosas Jr. by decision. Joe Pfeiffer by decision. Drew Dober by knockout in the first. And Brandon Moreno by decision. Boom. It's a fine card. The last 3 fights are pretty good. Not a great start. The last 5 prelims could be decent, and then this could be okay, and this could be forgettable. This is gonna suck more than likely, and the last 3 fights are decent. So I'm not upset. It's a fine card compared to London last week. On paper, I think it's about the same. Main event's better. Outside of that, it's competitive. It's very competitive. Hopefully, it's better than London in execution. Again, I said it a few times in the intro. If we get one knockout, and we're definitely going to, it's already better than London. So, get one knockout. The crowd's gonna be on fire. It's gonna be a humid, fucking low altitude night in Mexico City. Let's see who can live up to the fucking elevation and the occasion in Mexico City this week. Should be fun. I'm excited, even though I'm not excited, if that makes sense. As UFC, I'm always going to be excited, especially as it comes closer. And let's see what happens, man. I'm excited. And I'm not at the same time, because the UFC is going to suck dick. But what can you do? So I sit back, relax, and hope your picks don't suck. The card's going to suck either way, but at least if the picks hit there, it makes it better. So, but I'm going to stop rambling and say... am I forgetting to say anything? I feel like I wanted to say something now I can't remember, so... Whatever, let's see what happens in Mexico City in 2025. Besides that, the next time you'll hear from me is sometime on Sunday when I recap this card, hopefully saying good things about it, but it's UFC, when does that ever happen? And we'll see what happens, so... Yeah, Sunday will be the recap, probably a quicker recap, like I said last week. I do want to start making those a little quicker. It won't be an hour and 42 minutes, I can almost guarantee that, but every time I say that, it's going to be longer, so maybe I should shut the fuck up and say, I hope you enjoyed the video. Please like, comment, subscribe. 100 subs, always the goal by the end of 2025. And unless I'm going to say something, which I don't believe I am, because I would be shocked if I am, as always, RX out. Good vibes only. And always. I wish I knew how to say any of that in Spanish.